Our fundamental guest on the show today, Prakash Diwan, is joining in. Prakash, good morning and happy Monday to you. Lots to discuss. Auto sales, last of the earnings, the good tailwinds from the GDP number. Actually, let me start with some of the earnings. Let me take up Nykaa with you because Nykaa's numbers look good finally. Do you think there's appetite for these new age platform companies? How do you find Nykaa at current valuations?
Good morning, Shruti. So, no, I think there's this very clear turnaround in terms of path to profitability and the approach to the business itself. For most of these companies, having done enough mistakes, vis-a-vis what the street expectation is. But is Nykaa part of that list in terms of turning around? I think it still needs more time. If you really see what's any of these new age companies where opportunity exists from a defined trajectory on this turnaround, why not a Zomato? Why not a Paytm? These are companies which very clearly have demonstrated that the change is irreversible. Nykaa still needs to the same thing happened with Mama the other day. You had good numbers, but you couldn't sustain. So that's the whole challenge. They'll have to actually establish the trajectory unequivocally, and then probably the market will start wanting to put something. I mean, things have improved, margins have improved, but then they still need to relook at the business model. Why, carry the burden of fashion when it's not doing well for so many quarters? So there are lots of questions that they probably have answers to, but we'll get to see that on the ground and then look at it. But not too excited to buy into it at this point in time.
No, absolutely. Got that. By the way, Prakash, quickly, if you can run us through this, if you've seen the news flow, Ekta highlighted that Dr. Reddy's and OneSource around semaglutide.
Yeah.
That case. Any thoughts there?
No, I think OneSource has been a developing story, if I may use one of your terms, in that sense that it always held a lot of promise, given how it started off and branched off and on the market as well, the way it's been creating its trailblazing kind of moves. I think this verdict actually establishes a lot of things, keeps everything, all the doubts away. And semaglutide as an opportunity is something whichever way companies participate is going to be promising enough. So I don't think these restrictions will not allow them to export. And there's a massive market overseas which they still have accessible. So I am quite positive on that. OneSource Specialty also has other things than this that are very positive. So take a look at it from a constructive two-year perspective. It could definitely surprise the market.
Okay, so that's on Dr. Reddy's. Prakash, so open-ended question. I mean, do you see any turnaround stories here, maybe in the PV space beyond Mahindra and Mahindra from a stock buying perspective, beyond M&M? Anything else you're looking at?
So the PV space is anyways very small, given the kind of option that you have. But I would believe Tata Motors, while the numbers have not been very encouraging, could probably see a turnaround because their strategy is to bunch up some of the models that they're launching, the EV launches, and the Harrier is on the anvil. It is likely to open up a very different segment, better price point, better margins. So things could probably look up, Sudhir, for them as well. Whether you would buy the stock would also depend on a lot of the global cues, which they are more subjected to. But play safe. M&M still has its salience that's unveiling itself. I don't see why that would not deliver the goods. So it's a bet that you would need to take. Look at ancillaries from what numbers are telling you. The next 6 months are going to be very positive for ancillaries. So we'll discuss it at some point. But to answer your question, not buying anything afresh beyond M&M, but I would look at ancillaries very actively in some time.
Give us a name, since you're saying the auto ancillary space. One or two names?
Yeah, so there are lots of them which are positive. But look at a small company like Suprajit. There's something like Talbros. Even a large one like Samvardhana. The other day, the management was on the channel talking about the plans and things look quite positive. So the reason is different, of course, because it's a global shift that's likely to happen where ancillaries are not as badly impacted as what we thought earlier when the tariff war started. So things could start reviving themselves and the sales generally, by and large, for most of these companies, the OEMs, have been fairly better than what most people penciled in for FY25 also.
Sure. All right, got that. Actually, on these tariffs, Prakash, Nigel was just telling us before he left for the conference that, Hindalco perhaps could be even harder hit because of Novelis and what happens with operations there. And then, there's Tata Steel. Directly, India doesn't export too much to the US, but there could be second-order impact. And these metal stocks were doing quite well, actually, last week because the global-facing sectors had a sigh of relief. What would you do with metals?
I think that becomes an opportunity to buy. I mean, see, these tariffs do come with a little bit of indication that there's no sense of permanence. They're just negotiating tactics. They're more work in progress. My sense is Hindalco will get impacted because out of the aluminium producer, that's the only one that does have some sort of an export, and they've indicated about a 40 million kind of a hit. But then, in the larger scheme of things, there's enough demand for aluminium domestically and in other markets, other pockets. I don't see any reason why that would upset things for a longer term perspective. So there'll be a blip, but that'll be an opportunity to buy, in my view. Hindalco is absolutely very strongly poised for so many other factors, and we've discussed this in the past. So I'm quite positive on that. But this becomes an opportunity to buy for long-term investors.
Okay. All right. I'll watch for that. By the way, Prakash, there are two listings today as well.
Yes.
Leela Hotels and AG's Vopak, both interesting businesses. Did you like any of these issues?
I think AG's Vopak is interesting. It's a nice small business in a niche which is not easy to kind of see many players come into. My sense is, given where we are in the global, setup on exports and the way things are looking up for us as an economy, that's a place to be. But Leela, of course, not taking away the fact that it's a great franchise, but you have many more choices out there, as you would know, even within the listed space. In fact, I was quite surprised when I was studying Leela. In the listed hospitality sector, there are more than about 18 companies to choose from. So that's quite interesting. But I'm not a big IPO fan, so I always like price discovery to be more established, more mature before buying anything from a longer term perspective. I'm no hurry to buy anything that you would have to kind of do it on day one. But I'll wait for the listing to happen.
Okay. All right. Got it. Thanks very much for that. Well.